Hi everyone, it's me Whimsy. Thank you for deciding to check out this video, and thank you everyone for the positive feedback about last night's video, which is one of those subjects that you go into. There's look, even if you are a trained professional remote viewer, a professional empath, some places are just really unpleasant to go to. And then if I have people saying go there, go there, go there, and sometimes you go places and you have to give information that people don't want to hear. So I'm sorry to say this is part two, part two of yesterday's video, because I didn't finish the video, and then I documented that, and then I continued on with the remote, and so this is really part two of that remote. And then I did another minor remote today where we picked up a couple of things also. So the first thing I want to do is to do a continuation of last night's remote. As people know, last night's remote, using the heart-centered remote viewing technique, we attempted to make contact with white supremacists, people who are supporters of the KKK, etc. So it was not a fun place to go, but it goes back to the question we often get on this channel, which is, what's the point? What's the point of being a heart-centered remote viewer? And how can we use this technique and teach this technique to detectives, law enforcement, lawyers, teachers, students? Everybody can benefit from learning these empathy techniques so that we can really put ourselves in the shoes of another person. If it's a situation of a crime and you're being hired as an empath to do profiling, then it can very much be helpful. And so I want to continue on with the profiling and the meditation and the remote viewing, going through that rabbit hole that we talk about so much on this channel. Now, when you're doing the 5-step heart-centered remote viewing technique, step one is the step where we get ourselves safe. You put yourself into light and protection, bright light, white light protection. Number two is you ground yourself to the earth and bring energy up from the earth, bring energy down from the sky. You bring the energies together. You focus on your third and fourth chakras. Specifically, you're using your third chakra to sense the gut energy or feelings of what it is you're attempting to remote. The fourth chakra, you're attempting to make a heart or love connection, or a loving connection with the target or the subject. And that's because we catch more flies with honey than we do with vinegar. If you are trying to get information, and if you're doing it in an aggressive way, which I think is sometimes why classical remote viewing doesn't work when you're doing these types of investigations. If you're just going in like a military person trying to find location, that may help to an extent. But if you're trying to get into the actual mind of somebody who you're profiling, it's good cop, bad cop. If you're the sensitive, compassionate empath who's been brought in to do the profiling, your job is not to be the bad cop. Your job is to be the unconditionally loving, accepting, emanating the unconditional love of Gaia and the universe and Gaia. That's basically what you're trying to channel and send to the person that you're targeting. And for that reason, you'll get a really good response, because that force, that energy is so powerful in terms of opening people up. Sometimes I can't get in. An example would be William Barr. No matter how much love I pour on William Barr, he still says he doesn't want to talk to me. So sometimes you do this technique and you can't get a response. So I did the technique last night. I was attempting to connect with white supremacist KKK, and it was regarding investigations into lynchings and the mysteries of these lynchings. And I found myself in the rabbit hole of lucid dreaming. And this is the point where I say this is either a story or an actual event. And so for that reason, we're going to go ahead and document this June 20th, 2 p.m. So as I entered the rabbit hole to try and find out what had happened with the young man who had been the victim of the lynching in California, I found myself in a story. And in this story, um, white supremacists were attempting to lure unsuspecting people, black men, into compromising situations by sending attractive women into the marches to flirt and to pull people away from the group. And in this remote, the victim had been lured to the park. He had been lured to that particular tree and was ambushed. And that appears to be the technique that was used in order to get this victim and other victims. And there seems to be communication by white supremacists via email, phone, etc. Now, from their perspective, they feel that this is it. This is the beginning of the civil war that they've been waiting for. And they are hoping that the Democrats will continue to push the race card so that they can have a civil war between the blacks and the whites. This is what they've been working for. This is what they're planning for. This is Christmas for them. And so they're all communicating and they're all getting excited and they're planning different activities in order to terrorize and prey on the victims. So specifically, when I did that remote, I saw 4 people, 3 men and 1 female. The female was used, as I said, she went out like bait. She was seducing or trying to lure people to that area. There was 1 man I saw that had gone into the tree. He was the one that had the noose. He was hiding in a tree with the noose. And then there were 2 men on the ground that ambushed this individual. So he went to the area with her, lured there. Maybe they were just going to sit in the park. Maybe they were going to have a little romance. Whatever the thing was that lured him there to that tree, there was somebody actually hiding in the tree. When he realized what was happening, it looks like the person up on the tree dropped the noose. The 2 men came out and abducted. That he was ambushed. They put it around him and they used the other end to lynch him. Now, the remote continues after that. I went forward in the remote and it looks like after the event, these particular individuals bragged to their friends that they had done this thing. And so we're looking for, as I mentioned, 4 white adults, 1 female, 3 males. Y'all know it's not my policy to do crime cases, but if the universe gives me the remote, and with this detail, I have to go in. So that's why we're doing this. So 4 adults, 1 male, 3 females, 1 in the tree that was holding the noose that was hiding, 2 on the ground. They ambushed him, they dropped the noose, they hung him. They then bragged to friends, and then from that, this information could be leaked to the police. And they are even going to begin to tear the group apart so that the bait, the female who lured him, she is claiming in the remote, I did make contact with her, she is claiming that she didn't know that they were really going to kill the victim. She's already claiming that she's not going to prison for this, that she thought that the men were joking, that they were just going to lure him over there and that they were going to spook him and scare him off. She didn't believe that they were seriously going to go as far as they did. This is what she's claiming. And because she's already claiming it, we could be seeing when this group is caught, her doing some type of a plea bargain, because they're probably going to get murder 1. And the reason that they're going to be able to get murder 1 is because this is a classic case of premeditated murder. And this is the setup. And this is the setup that the FBI and the police and the intelligence agencies need to be looking for. Usually 3 males, 1 in the tree, and 1 female or male, depending upon who the target is used as bait. That is that remote, and I'm happy to do it for anybody that wants information about that and thinks it can be of value in any way. So the next thing I want to talk about now is the worst case scenario. We talked about the worst case scenario a couple of months ago, and the worst case scenario was what happens if Joe Biden cannot complete this race. This is the dark path that we as remote viewers, the multiverse, we will sometimes be asked to go down a dark road, the worst case scenario, so that we are hired to basically plan for the worst case scenario. So the worst case scenario is that Joe Biden dies before or has an accident and cannot complete his term before he declares a running mate, that could be a problem. The second possibility is that he declares a running mate, accepts the nomination, but then cannot complete or has to leave the campaign before November. What is the most likely scenario that's going to help us get into the White House? That was what this remote was about. And I found myself, because of the environment and because of the white extremists pushing for race riots, etc., that the worst possible situation for them is for Joe Biden to pick somebody who is relatable and can build a coalition, particularly amongst the poor white rural areas along with poor urban areas. So if we put emotion aside and we simply think like chess players, how do I win this game, and not put the emotionalism, but this is what I want, this is what I really, really want Stacey Abrams, or I really, really want Kamala Harris. This is the universe saying, put emotionalism aside, look at this objectively. This is a game. These are the players. What's going to get us into the White House? And we have to think emotionally, no drama, Obama, and pick the person that is going to be relatable. And here's what we need from the VP, according to this remote. We need somebody that is well known both in the United States and abroad. Somebody that has name appeal. It can't be somebody that nobody's ever heard of, because if Joe Biden's been knocked out, then it's going to be Donald Trump, the famous Donald Trump, who they know, and a virtual stranger. If the virtual stranger is a woman of color and they've spent 3.5 months creating race riots and convincing poor people in rural areas that people of color are coming after them, you see, we've already played the game out six steps ahead. If we go down that road, then we understand how we can lose this thing. The most likely people that would best suit this position would be Elizabeth Warren or Kamala Harris or Amy Klobuchar. So if we do pick, a woman of color, energetically, it looks like Kamala Harris would be the most likely to be elected. But she still doesn't poll well with white male voters. They sometimes feel like she's lecturing them. With Amy Klobuchar, they don't feel like she's lecturing them. They feel like she reminds them of her kid sister and she's got their back. Same with Elizabeth Warren, and that's why she polls well. So the biggest risk for losing is if Joe cannot continue on and he chooses a VP, which is not strong enough to compete in a national election against Donald Trump. That remains our biggest threat. The other reason why Spirit was pulling us towards Elizabeth Warren is that they showed me certain environmental issues that are going to be happening now, between now and October of 2020, and that includes flooding, but specifically droughts. So we're going to be having shorter growing seasons and possibly another dust bowl in the Midwest, I'm sorry to say, and potentially another drought. And again, for that reasons, being steer away from race baiting or any of this tension that they are attempting to manipulate the emotions of the Democrats, and instead no drama, look at this objectively. What do we need to do to win the swing states? And do not engage in any kind of emotional manipulating. So energetically, what does that look like? Because of the Dust Bowl potentially being in drought again, poverty in the Midwest, rural areas, how do we create a strong poor people's coalition when this all hits, which it will by October? That's why the universe keeps saying Elizabeth Warren. But the good news is we might still be able to pull it off with Kamala Harris because she's developing strong name recognition. And Amy Klobuchar did fairly well as well. All right, thanks for watching, everybody. These are tough times. Please stay safe. Please listen to messages from Spirit. Don't wander off by yourself. Please go about your business in groups. We do this to keep everybody safe and healthy. All right, thanks for watching, everybody, and we'll see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.